Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Learning Liaisons. My name is Dr. Ampel, and I want to welcome you to our virtual classroom system. If this is your first time joining us here in the Learning Liaisons, we want to welcome you and thank you for spending time with us today to watch this interactive, engaging workshop with our spotlight presenter today, Bud Collier of I'mBullyFree.org. Just to let you know, point out a few things in the classroom. On the right-hand side, bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see a box that says web links. These are interactive web links. All you have to do is click them with your mouse and click the Browse To button, and those links will open up in a new tab on your computer. As Bud leads us through the discussion this evening, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type those in the chat box. And what we'll do now is we're going to bring on Bud Collier of I'mBullyFree, who's joining us this evening. Are you with us, Bud?
Well, good evening, everyone. And I am Bud Collier, and I'm privileged to serve you as the director of I'mBullyFree. My personal cell is 713-478-3049. We would like to thank everyone for attending our workshop, which is called Has Your Child Been a Victim of Bullying? We'd like to thank the Learning Liaison for sponsoring this great event. So a little bit about I'mBullyFree before we get started. We were officially recognized as a nonprofit 501(c)(3) as of March 2012. And I'mBullyFree is dedicated to the memory of my daughter, Candace, and all the other children that have died as the result of bullying and violence. She was bullied most of her life and was murdered on 26 December 2011. Her mother found her in an apartment, and she'd been stabbed over 100 times. Well, as we look back at her life at the age of 21, she was murdered, and she fits a lot of that profile of why kids get bullied. She was part white, part Hispanic, and she was heavy. All these things that sometimes get you recognized and being bullied. Well, as she started growing up, she didn't fit in, and that's what we see with kids. They're moving towards some place just to be normal. And so at the end of the day, she started maybe running with gangs, and one of them killed her. So when we go into schools and do our presentations, that's one of the things we talk about is once violence comes to your doorway, there is no discrimination with that. So the long description of what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage all members of the community, schools, community leaders, youth, parents, businesses, and other programs to advocate for children being bullied, and by promoting bully prevention and awareness. So we coordinate, we support anti-bully legislation, and we're advocating for increased funding for bully-related research. So throughout this, our mission statement is children are our future and worth investing in to promote a safe, caring, non-hostile learning environment where children can mature successfully and with dignity and respect. So basically free from scrutiny and help from all the schools. So this evening, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some slides and throw a few videos up. And as a little bit more about me is I was retired military, spent 22 years in the Air Force. Then I worked at NASA as an aerospace physiologist, sat on the pool side, training the astronauts for the as they go in the big swimming pool where they made the movie Armageddon. And then I teach at Embry-Riddle, so I'm very process oriented. So as we look at this presentation today, we're going to go, what is bullying? Give a good core definition, statistics on bullying. And what's amazing as I talk with parents is they really don't understand or don't even know how many children are bullied, how many children commit suicide, how many children attempt suicide. Well, it's up to 4,800 kids under the age of 17 that successfully commit suicide. Now, it's not all related to bullying, but a lot of them are. And nobody really does that in-depth investigation on it. So that comes from the CDC. And what should you do if your child is bullied? and warning signs if your child is bullied, and how to talk about bullying. And then we look about policies and laws, the rights in schools, and what you can do. But as we open up cases with bullying, and I'm bully free, a lot of times the child has had a lot of issues. They're already at the end where they're talking about hurting themselves, and now we do have a problem. And once you get to the component where you need a doctor or a psychologist, a hug doesn't work anymore. So that's one of the things that we advocate. And somebody had a quick question about are we why aren't schools more proactive? So those are things that we're going to discuss. Now, Doc, what I'd like for you to do is play the video, and when that's done, he'll. So this is a little bully about human rights, and it puts us on the same level. So bullying is basically bullying and discrimination fall in the same category. So I'm ready, Doc. Go ahead.
I believe discrimination is judging someone without getting to know them, getting to really know the core of their personhood.
Discrimination is making fun of someone.
Not accepting someone for
Who they are and what they stand for.
One of the guys on the bench said, "You can't sit here if you're not white."
Random people at school, even the dean, asked me, "Oh, did anybody kick you today?"
Security actually said to me, "Well, you're Asian, you're female. Shouldn't be a big deal. He didn't rape you."
I've been picked on for having an accent.
Called me fat, just to my face, and started like making pig noises at me.
They didn't really want to talk to me because I didn't know the language.
She thought that because I was black, I clearly couldn't be smart like the other kids.
I've been told that my religion's not the right religion.
I remember him coming eye level with me, and then he spit in my face. Basically, F you, white boy. And then he rode away.
I sat down next to this girl in class, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh my God, you have such a big nose. Like, that sucks for you."
It's everywhere you go. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, pink, purple, tall, short, skinny, fat. How they look, it just doesn't make any sense. And according to our human rights, there's no discrimination.
I am
21. I am Catholic.
I am Romanian.
I am Buddhist.
I am Hawaiian.
I am fat.
I'm Chinese.
We're a female twin.
I am a woman.
I am Irish.
I'm really tall.
I am Mexican.
I'm a lesbian.
I am Bulgarian.
I am a Latina.
I am Greek Orthodox.
I'm Roman Catholic.
I'm Christian.
I am bisexual.
I am a redhead.
Apache Indian.
Filipino and Chinese.
White.
Greek.
Colombian.
Puerto Rican.
Indian.
Mexican.
African American.
Caucasian. Scottish.
Romanian.
British and half Jamaican.
Salvadorian.
Portuguese. Chinese.
I am female.
I am a leader.
I am strong. I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe that we all have rights.
I believe that I can love anyone.
I believe that it's okay to be me.
I believe that we are all one human race.
I believe that we can make it.
We believe that we can make it.
I believe that one day we can all appreciate each other.
And that day,
And that day,
And that day,
And that day is today.
we all have human rights.
We all have human rights.
Why don't we live by them?
don't tease me.
Because of who I am.
Don't discriminate against us because of who we are.
It's called
Respect!
So you can be you.
So you can be you.
So you can be you.
But don't beat me up.
If I want to be me.
But don't beat me up if I want to be me.
Because I'm just a human being.
We are changing.
We are changing. By every generation.
by every generation.
Look out!
Look out!
Look out!
Because there's
No discrimination.
Because there's no discrimination.
Be strong, be you.
At 713-478-3049. So next thing we're going to do is start looking at the slide presentations. the slide presentation. So what is bullying? So basically, go ahead and take a quick look at this definition. So bullying is unwanted. It's some type of behavior. And what we're looking at is school-age children, and it evolves all the way into adulthood. But it's perceived power imbalance. And we'll talk about this in more detail. But this behavior is repeated, or it has the potential to be repeated. So as you look at our little bully bear characters, one of the things that I demonstrate to the children in the classroom when we do our awareness briefings and programs is I'll bump into the kid bully bear and I'll go, "Excuse me, bully bear," and then we apologize. That's not bullying. So, but if every day I walk by and I hit bully bear or I hit that child, that is bullying, and it's perceived. That's the biggie, is how that child perceives it. So this is a definition that is basically remarkable now. This is what's the standard. Probably in 2007, 2008, as I opened up the bullying question, it was all over the place. What was perceived, things of this nature. So this more or less is what majority of the professionals are accepting. So when we look at imbalance of power, it's kids who bully use their power. We see those kids because they're bigger, they have a bigger group, things of this nature. And without getting into the psychological issues and things of this nature, a lot of those kids have issues that they don't respect themselves as much. They don't have that pride, that empowerment. But when we look at the next area, we look at repetition. Bully behavior happens more than once and has the potential to happen more than once. So bullying includes such actions as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally. And as we start looking at these different ones for the physical bullying, the verbal bullying, we'll talk a little bit how that affects your child and how that starts growing, in my opinion. So every time that we look on the internet, if you don't think we have a problem with bullying, just type in YouTube and bullying, and you'll get thousands of videos of violence. So does anybody have any questions on this one? So far, so what we're looking at is when you start with your child, we want to start at a young age. So now that we're looking at what real bullying is, there's a video I want to show you, and Deus is the individual that made this video for me. We're partnered together. And he has some physical characteristics when you see this video. And he wrote this song, "Let Me Live," and it has over 2 million hits almost on YouTube, and he's never tried to sell it. So he is one of my partners, and what we do different than a lot of the other groups is we bring our presentation in and we play music and videos to support some of this. So take a look at this individual, Deus, and see if we're getting the message out to the kids. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, what's happening? It's your boy Deus. Here with Simadizi and my nephew. Gotta stop madness. What's up? This is Deus. When I was brought into this world, I had massive birth defects, and I wasn't supposed to make it, but I did. And because of this, there was many times in life that I was looked at different. All throughout my torso, I had over 400 stitches. I have no belly button, so I looked a lot different than most children, and kids made fun of me. I was called a monster and an alien, and that stuck with me through the years. It didn't feel good. Deus and Looney Productions are so proud to team up with I'mBullyFree.org and Bully Bear. Together with the Let Me Live campaign, we hope to reach out and help the children that really need it. Life is priceless. Be good to each other. That's when happiness will find us. Things you say to me, what you do to me, positivity only gets through to me.
Okay, I'm back. I love that video. I love his passion. But imagine M. Deuce growing up with those physical those physical problems, and he had scoliosis, all kinds of different issues. And we'll put up the link to the song. It's up. It's up on YouTube, and it's also on my I'm Bully Free webpage. So you can, but it's a very powerful song, and he had issues with that through his whole life. Plus, he was I guess the correct term would be mulatto. He's part black, part white, and living up in Seattle, he was bullied because of those reasons. But when he would take his shirt off, he had no belly button, he had this huge scar. So they basically called him alien. I mean, can you imagine growing up that far and through life and enduring that almost every day? So it's just not fun. And as we see the statistics, things of this nature. So we'll go through that in a minute. But let's talk about verbal bullying. This is one that starts in school with the teasing, things of this nature, and I get calls all the time where it starts as, it's just part of growing up, and I'm trying to see if there's any questions. But verbal bullying comes from name calling, threatening to cause harm, and that starts even at early ages. But that teasing of something. So as we look at the verbal bullying, that is probably one of the most prevalent types of bullying that we have. So any questions on that? Somebody had a question in relationship to how do you stop verbal bullying? Well, very good question. As even at the early ages of kindergarten, is we start with the presentations, and that verbal bullying, being mean to kids, is not nice. Remember that child that's being put in the classroom with 30 to 50 kids now. Some kids have a lot of parenting and some don't. And that's what we're seeing out there in the real world. I go to Beyonce's church, and there's a lot of kids that are homeless now. And where are their advice at home? Or the parents works 2 or 3 different jobs. So we don't get that role modeling as we did, as we seen while I was growing up. So verbal bullying is basically all of these. And again, as we tell the teachers and facilitators, if you let that fester, it just gets worse. So we try to stop it at that point. Now, as the kids get a little older, we see the social bully. And this is where we go leave someone out on a purpose. Tell other friends not to be friends with somebody. Spreading rumors. And the social bullying, embarrassing somebody in public. And that's when the social bullying, as they, about the 5th or 6th grade, the kids start getting cell phones. I was at a private school the other day, and probably 70% of the kids in the grades of between 5th, 6th, and 7th, probably 70% of the kids had cell phones already. And that's prevalent. And probably 30-40% of them had some type of internet connection where they can get to all these different areas. So as we talk to kids, is once you do the social bullying, either that leaving someone out out of the group on a purpose, all the way to making that internet connection and taking a picture of that individual with cyberbullying. So sometimes that is breaking the law. So social bullying is irreprehensible. And even at my age, when I worked at NASA, if you're excluded from a group, it doesn't make you feel good. So, and we've not figured out why we have all these little social clubs and things of this nature. You're not going to fit in all of them. But what we try to tell the kids is, you're not going to be part of every group. Everybody's not going to like you. But for the big part is, what I do when we're in the classroom with the kids, I'll have everybody turn to the right and say something nice to that young man or young lady or the teacher, and then turn to the left. Because in some ways, that's the only nice thing that might happen to that child that day. So any questions on this one on social bullying? Let me see if we got anything from. Yeah, and somebody made a comment. Social bullying is on the rise, and as you look at some of these children that come into play with that, it is, and it doesn't get any better as we go to college. But in fact, that's where we see a lot more of the bullying. So physical bullying, this is where the kids start punching, hitting, kicking, and that starts to a young age. But by the time we get to a lot of the high school, they've stopped that because the kids have figured out they're going to get in trouble. Zero tolerance is a term that schools use. Is if I attack your child or a child attacks your child and they fight back or protect themselves, in a lot of states, both of the kids go on probation or they get suspended and things of this nature. So that's one of those issues that we're always looking at. So for the physical bullying, that can be catastrophic, and that can definitely lead to some type of physical of post-traumatic stress syndromes. And we see these kids that might get attacked over and over on the buses, things of this nature. But as we look at physical bullying, the children that attack your child or a group of children, they do it away from the cameras. They're pretty smart. They do it privately. They do it in the bathrooms, and we see that all the time where the kid gets physically manhandled in the bathroom. So physical bullying is one of these. But as we look at these different types of bullying, it's the same with the soldier. Some soldiers can go to war and they have no PTSD or no mental challenges. Same with the kid. Some kids can get beat up and it doesn't affect them. And some children, as we look at them and as we start investigating, it was just some taunting. It was a video, and it leads to that long-term effects. But if we don't nip this in the bud, the long-term effect is your child potentially is going to see a psychologist, and they receive some type of medications for the long term, simply because that teacher, that facilitator, the bully bear guy that was at the YMCA didn't stop that. So that's what we're looking at. So those are the different types of bullying that we have out there. So as we look at this next slide, remember I teach at Embry-Riddle and I teach flight physiology and human factors. So when we look at an accident, there's a statistical analysis to it. So as we look at why these children are hurting themselves, why these children are missing school, this is these statistics are out there. And as we go through, we have 280,000 kids that are physically attacked or are in school each month. 1 out of 4 teachers see bullying and they don't do anything about it. And 42% of the kids have been bullied online, and 1 out of 4 had it happen to them more than once. So as we look at this, 13 million kids will be bullied in school, online, on the bus, and at home. So 13 million kids, and then we have all the kids that don't go to school. And then the long-term effect is it affects their grades. So what we're advocating to the schools is we start the anti-bully programs in kindergarten and preschool, and it can't just be once a year. To think about as parents, as you're listening to it, we only talk about safety once a year. We only do safety inspections once a year. How effective? Well, when we have those companies and we come in and review, OSHA reviews what they're going on, they don't have a safety program and their incidents are a lot higher. And the same we see in schools. When they're not proactive, then we see these incidents going up. Now, are we ever going to stop bullying? No. But can we stop some of the negative effects? I think that's what we're after. So, any questions on any of these slides? Let me see if anybody is calling in. I'm checking my little thing. Everybody pretty much. And when we go back to the question about being proactive, how does a school be proactive? And it's the money issue. How many different ways can we talk to the kids and things of this nature? But being proactive, the teacher sees something and he or she starts escalating it to the right channels. See, if I'm in a private school or if I'm in the YMCA, you can tell that child that they no longer come to that facility. But when I go to a public school, you can't suspend everybody, kick everybody out, send them to these different rules. But that's where we're looking at that. So let's go to the next slide and see what we have. So what do we tell the kids? And it's amazing when very few kids do not know what to do when they're bullied. They tell a teacher, they tell a grown-up, and then the big thing is they tell their parent and guardian. That's one of the most important factors. So what happens at school, you should tell your parents. And the same way when we see very successful bully intervention is the parents are highly involved with what they're dealing with the schools and things of this nature. But a lot of times the parents don't find out that how severe this bullying is until they find the cutting with their kids. They find their kid hanging in the closet or something of this nature. Then it's too late in relationship to getting that professional help or they're dead. So as we keep talking to the parents, you've got to see what your kids are doing. You've got to take that cell phone. You've got to review what they're doing. You've got to have that open connection with your kids. And if you don't, that's when we have a problem. But most kids know to tell a teacher. And I see as we grow with our education that there's nothing wrong with telling a teacher. And back when I was going to school, back in the old days, back in the 70s, you were considered a tattletale if you told on somebody. That's no longer the issue. And we're seeing this education of the teachers themselves. So some of the issues that I see, who do you blame when your kid is bullied on a continuous basis? And it's truly bullying. Do you blame the schools? Do you blame the kid? Do you blame the parents? The blame game, there's really no other way unless I have an actual video of a teacher physically bullying your kid. There's no doubt there. But a lot of times, what if it's cyberbullying? The schools cannot control that, and it happens off-site, things of this nature. So what should you do if your child is being bullied? And these are just the standard things. So some warning signs, and we'll go back to your rights here in a moment. But here's some warning signs when your kid is being bullied. It's the same with anything. Your kid comes home with damaged or missing clothing. Their coat's gone. Reports losing items such as books, especially electronic equipment. Somebody's taking that jewelry. Have unexplained injuries. You have bruises, and they say they get, and it's on an ongoing thing. That means if your kid is coming home with these type of injuries, this has been going on more than a while. And I use this adage when you talk to somebody about how many beers did you have before you started driving. A lot of times that person that's driving the car would say only had 2, only had 3. And really they've had a series of maybe 9, 10, or 11. And it's the same as your child. As we ask your child what happened, a lot of times they'll deflate that. They're ashamed of what happened to them, or they're hiding it. So another thing is has trouble sleeping, has changes in eating habits, and hurts themselves. Katie Callahan is one of our advocates out of San Antonio, and she's an Olympic athlete for veterans. She has 20 gold medals. So the kids relate to her. Now we have this little star in there. So as we go to her school every year and talk about bullying, and we leave. But they have posters and things of this nature. And it's a private school, so the teachers and staff are more involved. We were at one event last year, and 6 young ladies, and these girls are in the 7th grade, and admitted that they were cutting themselves. And so when we find that out, our job is not to counsel your kids. That's not what we do. Our job is to tell somebody in authority, which is your principal, and then let them deal with it. See, when we first originally started I'm Bully Free, one of my directors of psychiatry is Ron Mumau. He's the head doctor for NASA for the space in relationship to space medicine. So he's the chief psychiatrist for NASA. And our intent was if a child was being bullied, then we would do some type of investigation or some type of survey. Well, we found out that was impossible because of the money. So how do kids start hurting themselves? They start cutting themselves, things of this nature, and they're really good at hiding it. So that's another thing, is you've got to have that open communication. So here's another thing, warning signs. They're hungry because somebody's taking their money for lunch. They run away from home. They lose interest in visiting or talking with their friends because it could be their friends that they've had for years and they've left them out of that circle of trust. They don't like them anymore. Are afraid to go to school and other activities. I was at a school about 2 months ago, and it was a private school, and I asked the kids point blank, and it was I had different grades, and I had 30 kids in one of the seminars, and I asked them, said, do you feel safe at this school? And they started talking, and then one of the teachers put a mouthpiece on him, and she almost started yelling at him. So as we look at that, is that the issue? Are the teachers hiding things? Are the schools hiding anything? So if your child's afraid to go to school, it's going to have long-term issues potentially, and it affects their grades. And you'll see that. That's why we have the kids that are constantly dreaming up, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good, or they just don't show up for those classes. So they lose interest in their schoolwork and appears to be sad and moody. And when they start talking about suicide, now we've got a serious issue. Because if they're talking about it, there's a good chance that they might go through with that next event, which is actually suicide. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm an aerospace physiologist. But when children don't understand that when they attempt suicide or are successful, that it's forever. So at one point, they don't really understand all these long-term outcomes. But some of the children that we work with where their parents have found them, now the result is you can't trust that child to be alone by themselves. So that affects the whole family. So suicide is nasty. They feel helpless, often feel that they're not good enough. And that's from the teacher, the other kids calling them fat, calling them this all the time. Blames themselves for their problems, suddenly have fewer friends, avoid certain places. You know, you'll see them. It'll take them longer to get home because they can't walk, or they don't want to take that bus and acts differently than usual. So as we look at that, those are some of the signs. And usually when it's like with my friends, if a kid doesn't want to go to school, that's what we're worried about. They're being bullied by somebody, and we start that phase where we start the interview and start asking the parents, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And those are some of the signs. So how to talk about bullying. So the parent, staff, and other caring individuals have a role to play in preventing bullying. They can help the child understand bullying. We do this by our awareness groups. Talk about bullying and how to stand up to it safely. To be the upstander. See, what is an upstander? Well, what we see when it's especially a kid that's bullying the whole class or the school, as a kid, they'll watch that. They don't want to intervene because that big bully will start in on them. And if you don't do anything and you see little Bud getting bullied, you have sometimes remorse and things of this nature. And one of the groups I work with are some of the karate. We see these karate groups and self-defense techniques starting to show up. And does a kid have a right to defend themselves? As I'm bully free, I advocate that. Now, but what we're teaching at some of these groups, like the Krav Maga group here in Houston, is we tell the kids not to fight back and leave as much as you can. And plus, Trey Drake's one of the teachers that senseis in that area, and we actually do scenarios with the kids, and we call them fat. We do these scenarios, so by the time they get in that situation, it's just words. And but we do advocate that when somebody lays hands on you, you have a right to protect yourself. And but the problem in some school districts, when the kid protects themselves, they get in the same type of trouble. They're suspended or something of this nature. But make sure your kid know how to get help and they tell somebody. So another thing is keep the lines of communication open. We've already discussed that. Check with your kids often. I had a young lady from Ireland, and I was talking to her, and her daughter was asleep, and she was getting cyberbullied on her cell phone. And I saw the message, and I go, yep, that's being bullied. And I said, so she goes, what should I do? I said, well, first of all, take that phone away from her. At least at the house, she can't get cyberbullied. Now, when she walks down the street, all of her little girlfriends are going to have their phone. But what was amazing was her mother refused to take that phone away from her because she needed to get in touch with her. Well, how important is that when you weigh that with the phone itself? So keep that communication. Tell kids to do what they love. Special activities, interests, and hobbies can boost confidence. We did a huge softball game for the veterans with PTSD, things of this nature. And let's see, Duck Dynasty was there, Roger Clemens, all of these sports stars, and Bully Bear, our little Bully Bear, he got to throw out the first pitch, and he was on one of the teams. Well, one of the young men that we had met just prior to that, a coach out of his high school started bullying, and he told on him, and the coach retaliated. So as we opened that investigation, we had good communications with the school. They found out that coach was a bully, and so he got the right help and things of this nature. But the young man that was being bullied, he saw that there was help, and the coaches stopped bullying him, and we had a very positive outcome. So because the family did the right thing, it's called one of our wins. Then we bought him out to be Bully Bear, and he got to dress out with all these sports stars, talk to them, and up to that point, now it was very successful, and he feels very empowered. And now he's going to start helping us with our behavior, with the kids in the classrooms. So hobbies can help, and try to keep them with their friends and protect them from that bullying behavior. And model how to treat others in kindness and respect. We've seen all these things on the internet, the kindness tour, be nice to somebody. And again, as you look at your child, you may have never laid hands on that baby. But that kid sitting next to your child in school, it might be one of those cage fighting at nights for him with either a brother, a sister, or a parent. And all they know is anger, and they take it out on your kid, and they're very good at it. So this is how you talk to your kids, and you talk to your teacher. Okay? So the next thing that we want to look at is there's all kinds of different laws out there. Every state has a law. So bullying and cyberbullying and related behaviors may be addressed in a single law, or may be addressed in multiple laws. In some cases, bullying appears in the criminal code of a state that may apply to juveniles. In 2010, the U.S. Department of Education reviewed state laws and identified 11 key components among many of these laws. And these key components is you'll have a bully policy. You'll have a procedure in place on what happens if your kid is bullied. A procedure that will have a timeline that will tell you when this should be looked at. And it goes through these different components. Now, it's not required by law, but it's suggested. And as I look at these 50 laws are out there, not every state has a cyberbullying law, but every state has laws in relationship to to what should be done with bullying. And what the school's supposed to do is bring that down in their handbook. And what we do is, as we go to the next, rights in the school, although no federal laws directly address bullying, in some cases bullying overlaps with discrimination, harassment, when it's based on race, national origin, color, sex, age, disability, and religion. So I've seen this in some of the laws and handbooks. Oops, sorry, let me go back. I've seen this in where they put bullying and discrimination and harassment in the same breath. So, let's take a look at as how what I'm Bully Free does during an investigation with the schools and or that place where your child is like the YMCA's or something of this nature, and the parents feel that there is nothing being done. So first I interview them and I ask them all these different things about their children. Do they have any disabilities? Are they this? Now when they have a disability, I'll open up another chapter and look at, because now you are breaking law when I'm going after your child, especially. Oops, let me go back here. I'm sorry about that. When I'm looking at the based on harassment on race, national origin, color, sex, age, disability, or religion. Now that definitely will get you in a different area. So what I do is I talk to the parents and I go, is this really bullying? That's the first thing, and the thing at school. Because a parent announces it's bullying, we don't automatically say it's bullying. See, I've got a call because little Bonnie didn't get on the basketball team. She's not getting enough playing time. She's not on the cheerleading team. So they'll play the bully card. They'll play one of these race cards. And so we'll kind of back out of that. And in my opinion, we won't go any farther, but we'll still support it. But as the kids' parents start talking about this multiple incidents, the first thing we do is we ask them, can you prove that you've been to the school? How many times? Do you have any actual in relationship? Do you have any evidence that, from either a paper that you filled out, things of this nature? Because what we're seeing across the country, most schools has either a physical where you fill out a form, or an app where you fill out a form and you turn that into somebody about bullying, and then the investigation starts. And then we look at who's doing the investigation, things of this nature. So as we open that up and I go, yep, this looks like it might be bullying, then I start looking at their handbook. And when I look at their handbook, and then I go and look at the state laws. And then that's when I find out, like some of the schools only have definitions. They don't give me an apparatus like you have 10 days to do it. What happens to that paperwork? What happens to that child? A lot of these schools, because nobody is enforcing it. And so we have all of these laws up at the higher level, and nobody's really enforcing it at the school level, in my opinion. See it all the time. In Georgia, I've had a couple of cases here in Texas. But what we're advocating is you don't go into the school and start yelling at the administrator as a parent. We suggest that you don't talk to that kid. Maybe their parents, that's up to you, but you do not talk to that kid. And so when you go into the school and you have the handbook and you reviewed that, even though, and that's what we see a lot of times, parents really don't read that handbook. They read it, but they sign it off, and they really don't know what's involved with it. But as I look at the handbook, it'll have very few procedures in it that I see. So as we keep talking about this and our rights in schools and investigation, then I compare that and I go, these are the requirements that you're not meeting my child. And you go to the superintendent or the principal and you go, you're not meeting these requirements. Then they act a little bit better toward you. Versus if I go into school and I go, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to do this. And then a lot of times the parents might even be arrested. So you do have rights as a parent, and it's called education. But see, imagine your kid tomorrow's getting beat up. So what do you do with that kid? And another thing I'll show you in a minute is we tell the kids to call the police. we call 911 when you're being physically attacked. Now, I'm not teasing things but if you're getting physically attacked by somebody, you call 911, whether the RSO is there or one of those groups, and you get that started on record. So as we look at this slide, once I bring in the discrimination police, the civil rights division, and a lot of times they will help, especially if it falls under one of these based on race, national origin, color, and sex. So state lawmakers have taken action to prevent bullying, and I think we discussed that. So basically find out how your state refers to bullying in laws, and if you ever have any questions, you can call me at 713-478-3049. Now, I'm seeing a lot of questions about bullying laws in relationship to workplace. Well, our course is for children, and but when you're looking at policies and procedures in the workplace, there's really no requirement, and unless you fall under that discriminatory practice. But that makes sense. So see, that's why I showed you that first video on discrimination and bullying fall so much hand in hand. But so to clarify what we do is once we take a case, which I take every case. So one of our groups, one of our board, somebody on our board of directors will work with you, and we don't counsel the kids. That's not our job. And so we work with you for the rest of your life, and we advocate for your children. And people that have known me personally, I've probably over the last since 2012, I've advocated probably over 200 children and their families. That not just counting my talking to the parents, but actually working cases with them. A lot of times we do get good results. So let's look at the problem. What you can do. Okay, the first thing, if it's a crime, and like I give the example, if I attack somebody at the mall, somebody gets arrested, right? Usually but in schools, a lot of times, it's a physical beating down and nobody gets arrested. That's an issue across the country. But when I have that video of your child, and these kids are a certain age, depending on the state, and I'm not going to be a lawyer here, we look at it's a crime and it can be prosecuted. The same way when you do the cyberbullying and you take a picture of some kid that is partially nude and you send that out, that is a crime. So we might have a class on that someday. So someone is feeling hopeless, helpless, and thinking of suicide. The main thing is get them to some help or a 1-800 number. And, that's not, by calling that 1-800 number, it's not going to stop them from killing themselves or committing suicide, but it may delay it. And then you need to get them, that child, some form of help. Someone is acting different at school, anxious, things that, as we're looking at this one, are not being able to care for themselves. Find a local counselor or other mental health procedures. And like you said, if you don't have the money, a lot of these psychologists will work on a scale. And if it's not covered under your medical insurance. A child is being bullied in school, again, contact the teacher, the school counselor, and you keep going up the line until you get help. And sooner or later, you will find that right person. And honestly, I go to the football games for the Texans on Sunday, and I'll see teachers sitting in their truck grading papers before they go because they're overworked. They've got too many kids and things of this nature. Now I lay over, let's do this investigation for bullying, and it's a time factor. And so what do you do if the teacher's the bully? Well, I'll talk to you offline about that and what other things you can do. So the school is not adequately addressing harassment. That's when you bring in the discriminatory, the NAACP, the civil rights people, things of this nature. And we have plenty of advocates out there that will help you. So as we look at these different, in closing here, I'm not going to close yet, but please help us stop bullying. And there's And if you don't like the message that I'm bully free tells you, then go to one of these other groups. There's so many different advocates out there. But the main thing is listen to what that advocate's saying and what we're trying to do. So in closing here, we want everybody to call us at 713-478-3049. That goes right to my cell phone. And if I don't have time to help your family personally, I've got Michael Hill, Ron Mumau, all these other docs and people on our board of directors that know what to say or know how to get you help. So in closing, one of the things that we do at schools is we tell the kids that you should feel safe, you should have fun at school for the biggest part, and if you're not, you need to tell us. So we play this song, I'm the happy song. So Doc, play that and see what y'all think of this. So this is Bully Bear, and here's the message that we leave the kids at the end of our class, and everybody gets up and sings and dances.
Get up!
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't nothing bring me down. The love is too high to bring me down. Can't nothing bring me down. I said, cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Hey, hey. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
All right, so that's all I have, and we would like to thank everyone for listening this evening, and we would like to put a special shout out to the Learning Liaison group, and we're going to do more of these type of videos, and as you see this posted up on Facebook and the internet, please forward it to other parents. But I from my heart, this is all I do now. I'm completely retired from the Air Force and NASA, and I advocate for your children and your families. And again, call me at 713-478-3049, and thank you very much.